And we're also obviously hearing talk of recession. Some of the publicly traded 3D printing companies have struggled over the last couple of quarters. When we talked about COVID, that was a big driver of sort of, I think, accelerating as people were looking for ways to onshore manufacturing. As you think about, where we're forecasting the economy to go, and obviously everybody's in Jackson Hole right now talking about what the Fed policy is going to look like here in the US, but, this has global ramifications. You work on a global scale. Does a recession help, hurt, or neutral for your overall industry, do you think? I stumped you.
Yeah. I think it helps in some ways that there's been a lot of hype in the industry, especially over the last 3 to 4 years of like what potentially of the technology can and can't do. I think the reality, like having companies kind of come back down to reality in terms of, hey, here's realistically how big some of the market sizes are, and here's the technology that actually is viable and has a business plan and is not just financial engineering on a piece of paper. I think that in my mind is helpful because you start to eat away some of the fat around the industry that may not be necessarily useful for the entire market. I mean, it's awful when people lose their jobs because of that, and sometimes lose their businesses. But at the same time, I think that's the way of the market economy. I think in some sense, we've seen still the ramifications of COVID aren't going away, and the conversation has really shifted to like, why weren't we manufacturing stuff here in the US, to like, hey, we need to do something about it. We're investing in it. And I think the ramifications of that up and down, people who are involved in manufacturing to people who aren't, is positive. I don't think you can argue with most people that like, hey, we shouldn't build stuff here. And so I think that's going to maintain a consistent thread throughout the next kind of 5 to 10 years, regardless of the recession or not. And I still think, I mean, there is a huge upside in manufacturing, doing stuff here using 3D printing, and you just see it every day because, again, it's something that is not necessarily as labor intensive. It fits kind of the ethos of what kind of Western, the US type of countries are able to do in terms of manufacturing. They're not able to throw 100 people at making shoes every day, or like a single line of shoes. Like they can, the economics don't make sense. The way we treat our workers doesn't make sense to do that. But some of these new enabling technologies are allowing us to make value in other ways that are still competitive. So I think there's certainly a recession is not good on the global scale. I hope it's not lasting, and I think that there's a lot of ramifications for that. But there are positives that come with it, and I think, again, if people are able to weather it, I think there is still a lot of opportunities in the 3D printing market.